Center for Franchising. On behalf of the university, let me quickly say that we continue to fervently pray for an end to this pandemic and protection for our university community, which includes all the people we reach through our franchise conferences. We pray that God will spare lives and protect our citizens, our medical teams, our government advisors, and of course, franchisors, franchisees, and suppliers who provide the economic backbone to this country. I also want to welcome my students from Principles of Franchising who are joining us today. I'm John Hayes. I am the Titus Chair for Franchise Leadership at PBA in West Palm Beach, Florida. Many of you have never previously interfaced with the Titus Center. I want to say welcome and happy that you found us today. We have critically important news for you, especially if you want to obtain financial relief through the $2 trillion CARES Act. It's important that you know what's available and what to do now to get your piece of relief. In today's program, Titus Center Advisory Board member Geoff Seiber from FranFund and Ron Feldman from Apple Pie Capital will share with you the information you need to know now and prepare you to begin working today on your relief package. We will record this program and post it on the conferences page of TitusCenterForFranchising.com. You're currently muted. Please make sure you are down in the lower left corner of your screen to provide the best experience for all participants, but we invite your participation during the Q&A session. You can use the unmute toggle when you want to ask a question. You can also use the chat feature at any time to ask questions. And here we go. This is subtitled How to Obtain Coronavirus Relief with SBA Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loan, presented by Apple Pie Capital and FranFund. This is a disclaimer. Jeff, anything you need me to say about this, or you want to say about the disclaimer?
Can you pop the slides up where I can see them, John?
I don't know.
And by the way, Ron is jumping on right now. His computer crashed. He was resetting. He should be on there in just a second.
I am on. Okay. Do you want me to are we using my deck?
We're using your deck, yeah.
All right, I'll hold on. I can put it on.
John's got him, Ron. He's just got to load it. Yeah, we're good.
I have them loaded, but I don't have that screen, Jeff, that shows all of them. Can you see it now?
No.
Oh, you can't see the.
Can everybody else see them but me?
Okay.
I can't see them.
No.
Cheryl?
No.
Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
So whoever the host is the only person who
Cheryl,
can screen share.
Can you get us back in there? Sorry about this. I know this hasn't happened before.
I'll pull up the slides. I think I have them saved from
All right.
them to me.
Okay, great. Sorry about this. Some technical glitch that we had. We have more capacity now. We were limited to 100.
Yeah, we just had that on a webinar that we were doing that we had.
Yeah, but we're beyond that, and so we had some technical glitch, and sorry about this, but we'll get it fixed. Cheryl has the slides as well.
Well, Ron and I can certainly fill some dead air, and maybe we can start off with.
Go ahead and start, Cheryl. We'll figure it out, and okay.
With a couple of. There we go.
Can you see them now?
There we go. Yep.
Great. All right. So I go to the next slide, Cheryl. There's a disclaimer.
Sorry, I have it in PDF.
All right. And I think you can go past that and go to the next slide.
It's kind of important.
All right, stop right there. Yep.
Yeah, let us talk about that just for a second. What you will hear both Ron and I say several times throughout this, which may be frustrating, but it has to be, I mean, we in order to share anything, we kind of have to make this statement in. Clarification is coming out on this hour by hour, half day by half day, however you want to say that. And we're giving you our opinion on we have really good information. We have really good sources. We work both very closely with especially with NAGL, the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders, in order to gather information as they receive it through the SBA and through the governmental relations team at IFA. But it changes slightly, or the interpretations can be changed as SBA goes through this. And so what we're telling you now is of what the best we know as of where we sit today, but these could be tweaked a little bit further as we go. So don't make any big business decisions on rates, yields, percentages, that sort of thing, because a lot of this, you don't have to make those decisions right now. But just know that this is the best we have from where we are, and continue to follow both Apple Pie's website and the FranFund website, and you'll see the most up-to-date stuff, up to the minute stuff as you go. So that's the disclaimer, and we're doing the best we can with what we got.
Great. Thank you, Geoff. Next slide.
I'm not seeing this in the right.
Yeah, this is the right new. This is the newer version.
No,
So-
no. I'm sorry. Mine's not squared up on the screen, but maybe that's just because I have all these people. There we go. Okay, now I'm good. Ron, you want to take this, or
this is Santa Claus showed
biggest
up
thing? Yeah, this is
The
one of the biggest
at the
things.
11th hour here. Any of your franchisees that have existing SBA loans will get, in addition to the forbearance they might have, or deferment, whatever you want to call it, an additional 6 months of payments paid by Uncle Sam to their bank, which will reduce their outstanding loan balance and interest expense due. So if you have a 3-month deferment, you're going to have an additional 6 months of no payments due. And if you have a loan not on deferment, it'll start with your next payment. And all new SBA loans originated from 3/27 to 9/27 will also have this feature. So unbelievable. None of us believed it when they said it was in it. And NAGL came out with the guidance last Monday night on this. So very, very positive development.
Yeah, this is not just in the deferments. You know, it's just we're pushing the payments, right? This is actually principal and interest paid on the borrower's behalf. So this is no repayment, nothing done here. And it continues to reduce your principal amount. So it's just as if your rich Uncle Sam stepped in and started writing checks for you for the next 6 months as far as the SBA loans are concerned. And you don't have to do anything for this. Now, just be patient as to when they're actually going to have your first month of this, because they're, again, scrambling right now to put that in place. So we should know, again, keep up with the websites, keep up with things, but go ahead and make your payment. If you're making it, you'll end up with 6 months. You'll end up with 6 months on, you will end up with 6 months at some point. So, you know, follow the terms of your loan right now, but that you will end up with a maximum amount. Next. These are the topics we're going to cover, and Ron and I will just split this up as we go back and forth a little bit and kind of play off each other. But you've probably heard of the EIDL loans and the PPP loans that are in this program. We'll touch on both and look at to compare and contrast a little bit of which ones may be best for you. Maximum loan size. We'll talk about the approved uses of funds that you will be able to do. You can't just use these for any business expense like you could with perhaps other products, but they will have very specific uses. But I think you'll find that fits well within the wheelhouse of what you're trying to do. The loan forgiveness parameters as we know them now. I mean, we can give you general terms here. Again, this is something that's continuing to be finalized throughout with the SBA as they start to do it, and then how to apply for the process and what your expectations should be on when those loans should be funded. Next.
There's two kinds of loans that you can get as a small business, an EIDL or a PPP. EIDL stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. These loans are designed for physical catastrophes, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, etc. They are made by the SBA directly. They're not made by banks. You can borrow up to $2 million, but you have to prove economic injury for the use of your proceeds. They're 30-year loans, great amortization. Again, thinking you're going to have to rebuild the building. That's why they're 30-year loans. They do have personal guarantees up to $200,000, do not have personal guarantees. But if you get one of these loans and you want to get a PPP loan, your PPP loan is going to be reduced by the amount of this loan, at least the $10,000 upfront advance that they give you. These loans also cannot be forgiven. PPP loans can be forgiven. If you need money quickly, this is not the loan for you. It's going to be a while before loans even get processed. You're looking at just the SBA doing all the intake, the underwriting, and the closing. And if you think about where the SBA is right now, they're not in their offices. They're understaffed. They're working from home. And my money is on them not having good cloud computing systems, and that not much is getting processed. So the better option for people in franchising in general is the PPP loan, which is being made by over 1,000 banks that are authorized to make SBA loans, in contrast to the EIDL loan. Next slide, please.
So let's talk a little bit about the PPP loan. There's $350 billion allocated to this, and we'll talk in a bit about how underfunded this program is for what is there. All franchise businesses that are on the registry or are eligible for this. So in other words, all franchises that are eligible for SBA. These loans will be forgiven, is a key component here, if the borrowers maintain their payrolls during the crisis or restore their payrolls before the period ends. Here's a few things to go through here. There's three main parts as we go through this to get through these loan programs. There's the part of how we're going to set the numbers for what the loan amount should be. There's a part on how we're going to tell you can spend those funds. And then we'll talk briefly about the forgiveness aspect and what those things can look like. But the maximum loan amount is your monthly payroll expense times 2.5. And that payroll expense, to set the size of this loan, is for the 12 months of payroll prior to February 15th of 2020. So we're going to go back to February 15th of 2019 or February 16th of 2019 be February 14th of 2019 and roll to February 15th. So those 2-week periods, that sets the loan amount. Now, in essence, you've got a loan at that point. It's a 10-year loan at 4% with no personal guarantee, no outside collateral, no affiliation problems. All credit elsewhere is waived, and this would be a great loan. In other words, if I told you guys the first thing we're going to have here is a 10-year loan at 4%, based on 2.5 times of your payroll and all ancillary expenses that go with your employees, but not just their wages, but also any healthcare costs that you pay for them, any 401k or retirement funds that you pay for them, all those things that are your employee, you're going to be able to do. Now, that would be, everybody here would think that was the greatest thing in the world right now. But there's going to be more things to this that will allow you, if you're keeping your employees and paying your employees, access to a deferment, to a forgiveness portion of this loan. And so let's go to the next slide.
So how do you calculate this payroll expense? Pretty straightforward. I heard on my last conference call 20 minutes ago that ADP is creating a report. Hopefully Paychex and the others will follow. But it's basically all of the categories on the left that Geoff actually disclosed on the last slide. Take an average of the last 12 months. We have to decide what the start and end date are. That's still a moving target based on the rulemaking. And you then divide by 12. If you've been only open a couple of months, you can use just January and February. And if you're seasonal, there's also an adjustment, as you can see on the bottom right, if you're in a seasonal business. The things that don't count are anything in excess of $100,000. The 6.2% you're paying in additional payroll taxes, not included. and you can see the rest. The last bullet is if you're trying to get a tax credit from the very first bill, which nobody's even really thought about much. I don't think it's going to be very applicable in franchising. So that's just there for informational purposes only. You can move forward.
Okay, so after we establish what the loan amount is, there are certain approved uses of funds for the dollar. They need to be payroll or those same expenses that we discussed just a minute ago as we said it, your rent or your mortgage payment, your utilities, and interest on any loans that you have, but not principal. So you've got four basic buckets these can go into, and if you go, first and foremost, you're going to want to focus this on payroll, and we'll go into that as well. But these others are approved expenses, and you will have forgiveness for these expenses based on some of the things we'll see going forward. Next,
Geoff or Ron, there are some questions coming in here on the chat. So does the PPP apply to the franchisor as well?
That's a good question. It does, but there's a question on affiliation if the franchisor is owned by private equity in terms of business size.
Okay.
If it's still a founder-owned franchisor, that should be fine.
Okay. If owners are on the payroll, are they covered also?
So if we could just hold off on those questions, we're going to get to them in the slides.
Okay,
But let us get through the slides and then we'll do Q&A.
great. That's good enough. Go ahead, Ron.
So here's just a quick illustration of what the forgiveness looks like. And this is a typical QSR restaurant that has $20,000 a month in payroll, $5,000 a month in rent, $1,500 a month in utilities. And I just threw $250 a month in for rent. So if you have $20,000 in payroll, your max loan is $50,000. If you only retained out of the $14,000 a month, you would have a 70% forgiveness percentage. So the bottom are your 8-week expenses. So you have 28,000 is 14 times 2 months worth. You have 10,000 in rent, 5,000 times 2. It all works out. So you will have paid out $41,500, but only $29,050 would have been forgiven, or 58% of your total loan. If you look at the example on the right, here it is where you've paid everyone, you've maintained headcount, you've maintained all of the expenses, and you have paid out 107% of your loan. You're not going to get 107%. You're only going to get 100. One big piece of information here, if you've been able to get a rent deferral as part of this whole thing crashing, you're going to want to go to your landlord and say, hey, listen, if I'm getting one of these loans, I'll pay you the rent in May and June, but I want July and August off instead of May and June. The landlord should be very happy to take the extra months earlier. But you don't get the forgiveness if you don't write the check and pay it. So very important point for folks that are going to do this in terms of getting the forgiveness. Next slide, please.
well, this is the big $64,000 question on how all of this is going to work. But before we start digging into the forgiveness part, what I do want to say is, again, you've got, from a strategic point of view, you've already put a lot more liquidity into your business by getting this, by maximizing your loan amount and then utilizing it for the basic things you need in order to move forward in the business. As we go through what we understand the forgiveness portions on this to work as we sit here today, some of this may change as it comes out of rulemaking in the SBA. So, but there are during the 8-week period, the eligible payroll costs that are incurred during that 8-week period are, assuming that you don't lose headcount during that time frame to get to 100%. So your headcount first needs to stay the same. A salaried employee is a salaried employee. That's one FTE. The hourly staff is going to be calculated on the Obamacare standard, which is 30 hours per week. So those additional FTEs will be taken by the number of hourly workers that are hourly paid, non-exempt folks that you have. That's going to be, so as our example here, we've got 10 hourly and 4 salary. If you come out of there with 14 FTEs on the other side, you're going to be eligible for 100% of that forgiveness, assuming that your wages are still within 75% of what you came as to what you came out with in the same period a year ago, 75% or more. Now, that's really complicated, guys, and it is. You can sit and try to figure this out with the minutia all the way through to the end. I'm going to suggest that you look at it as we go through it, look at the loan amount that you can get, look at how that helps your business, and strategically look down the road as we get more and more guidance and you decide what you need within your business in order to maximize that forgiveness. But Ron, do you want to go into something more there?
Yeah, just take the money and then whatever you get forgiven is a benefit. I mean, it's common sense here. Somebody's offering you 4% unsecured money without a personal guarantee in a time where your business is impaired. Grab the money and do the forgiveness calculation after. What I've been instructing everyone to do is to do a 12-week cash flow pro forma and assume you have no sales or that you have the sales at the level they are today, and see where you are and look at your existing cash balance and where you're going to end up. And then you retain staff based on what the right business decision is. Now, I will tell you there's a little wrinkle in this because of the unemployment bonus, I'll call it, that the federal government threw in at the 11th hour, where when you lay someone off, they're going to get, in addition to their regular unemployment, a bonus of $600 a week for, I believe, 10 weeks from Uncle Sam. So when you lay someone off, the odds are they're going to be making more not working for you than they would had you called them back. So it's going to be a little challenging to get people to come back off of unemployment. The other question we get all the time is how to calculate the FTEs, and this one big sentence in the middle leaves it pretty straightforward in plain English. If you have 4 salaried employees and 300 weekly work hours, you have 14 FTEs. They're using the Obamacare definition of a full-time employee, which is 30 hours a week.
But it's the same on both. It's the same coming in as going out. Just remember that your FTEs are at 30, not 40 hours.
To move forward.
Yeah, next slide.
So what's left for you after this? Let's assume you got that, you took out 50 and you got 30 forgiven, you got 20 left. It's a 10-year loan at 4%, but without a personal guarantee and uncollateralized. The only caveat here is if you have a conventional loan that is not an SBA loan, this could put you in technical default of your loan agreement, of the additional indebtedness provision of your loan agreement. You want to make sure that you ask, in this case, ask for permission, not forgiveness. You want to tell them up front you're doing this and make sure they don't have a problem with it. If you ask for forgiveness and there's something happens and you don't ramp back quick enough, they're going to call you in a technical default of your loan and call your entire loan. At least that's what they did in 2009 and 10.
Right. Very, very important. And right now, on the front end, you would think, well, this is kind of obvious, right? Wouldn't they want me to have more money in my business to protect their investment? Yes, right. If you get it on the front end, after you've already put it, and if we were to go into another situation like 08, 09, and they're looking for some reason to move loans off the books, this could be that reason. And there were a lot of people that went through that for absolutely on technical defaults. Next.
You can skip that one. That one should have been deleted. So these are all the documents you need to get a regular SBA loan. You're not going to need all these documents. Our advice to everyone is just start gathering them all and putting them in a folder on your computer or on a zip drive, just so you have them, so that when the guidance comes out, and by the way, the guidance was published while we were on this call just now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So while everyone's digesting this, it's very possible what I'm telling you is complete overkill. I believe it was overkill when we decided to do it. The most important document here is the payroll register. You want to have it for all of 2019 and 2020 till present. The rest of it is good to have. They might want to have it just for their files. It's not going to go into an underwriting decision. If you had employees and you were paying payroll and payroll taxes, you're approved for the loan as long as you're an SBA approvable borrower.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see this shortly. There's no reason to get into some of this stuff, but the key here is going to be to document your payroll, and we all know that. That's what so much of this is wrapped around. So make sure you get those documents ready. Next. There are a lot of strategic decisions that you will be able to make as you work your way through this loan. The key part is to get applied, to get your applications in, get the dollars, get them closed, get them on your balance sheet, start utilizing those things for what you can do. That is one of the best defenses against of being a failure here, is having access to capital and having that be liquid where you can utilize it. This allows you to do that. Don't overthink how you're going to. I think we heard it from Ron and myself both. Don't let the driver be, how do I get forgiveness? Let the driver be what's best for your business. Get capital, what's best for your business. And oh, by the way, part of this will be forgiven. So, that's probably the biggest, there's one takeaway you take from this, it is that. Get your business under control, get liquidity into your business, and then we'll figure out how you can maximize the forgiveness aspect. Ron, you want to go into what we see after that?
Well, there's going to be a new normal about everything that we do. I don't know. They're going to be able to cram as many seats on an airplane. Are we going to be socially distancing for a year? There's going to be a whole new normal. Are you going to be able to have the same number of seats in a restaurant? We don't know. There's also going to be a whole new credit normal, and we don't know what that's going to be. So if prior history will dictate future actions, what we anticipate is that conventional lenders will tighten and they will push everybody back to SBA again, which is exactly what happened in the Great Recession. So you want to do your business planning. If you have development schedules for new units, or you have franchisees that you expect them to open new units, I don't know how many franchisors or franchisees we have on this call. You need to prepare for both of those scenarios. A tightened credit market with people having to go to SBA. When you go to SBA, you're not going to have things like development lines of credit. You're not going to be able to open 3-4 units a year. It's going to slow growth. Sorry to be Dr. Doom, but we have to look at this realistically. The other thing that's happening is it's a pretty big election year right now. Who knows what our politicians are going to say to get elected? They'll say anything. We know that. 435 members of Congress are going to get elected or reelected. 1/3 of the Senate and a president. Everyone on this call needs to be active in advocating for franchising. So I'll give my pitch. franchiseactionnetwork.com or franchise.org. Please, everyone, when you get off of this webinar or while you're multitasking like most everyone does during webinars, go on those websites and register so that you can be heard. Your Congress people want to hear from you, the employers in their districts. They don't want to hear from me. They don't want to hear from Geoff Seiber. They don't want to hear from John Hayes. We're just talking heads. They want to hear from the people that are employing people in their district. Invite them to your locations. Get active and be an advocate for yourself.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways you can have from this is that we found that we were not able, as franchising, the IFA did a tremendous job. They worked tirelessly on this. And if there's ever been some place where they they really came through for the entire industry. It was going through this process and this bill. But with more horsepower, they may have been able to do better, or it might not have been as hard. And the Franchise Action Network is one of those things that allows us all, whether it's franchisees, franchisors, or suppliers, to immediately react to anything that's happening through automation. Here's the bill, please hit this, and it automatically sends letters and things to your congressman and your senator. And it allows you to start to make that connection where you can write a quick letter, a quick email, a thing from yourself personally. It makes a difference. We've had several congressmen through our office, even as a supplier in Fort Worth, and it's made a difference on our ability to connect and push issues and get people on the right committees. I mean, if you've got a congressman that's on appropriations or small business committee and they're in there and they hear from you, they will react to that. You'll be amazed that it doesn't, what that outreach can evolve into as far as being able to push your issues. And it starts with the FAN, the Franchise Action Network. And take 2 minutes, get on there, register yourself, and be ready to help participate in that as we move forward. Because the second part of this is there's already talk. I mean, Ron will probably, I'll let him talk about the exact numbers and the data here in just a second. But there's going to be a part 4 or a next part to this. There has to be. Ron, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I will. And then unfortunately, I just got summoned by the IFA to talk about this guidance. Apparently, there's a big mistake in it. We're going for a part 4. And Treasury has actually assured everyone that 350 is not the cap, that they're willing to go up, but they don't have that allocated by the Congress yet. So that to me is an empty political promise. But we've been told that they will make this the right size for the demand. Even more important for you to advocate. So I'll end my remarks on that, and I'm sorry, but I need to leave and get on the horn with the folks at the IFA because there's a big problem in what they published about 5 minutes ago. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ron. About this slide, or
Yeah, you can go to the next slide. I don't think there is anything behind it. Nope. Oh, how do you apply? Okay, well, we can go through this. I'm sorry. That's where we stopped before. So you can say, as we're going through and as we're finding out, and you can tell, as we said earlier, this is changing by the minute, by the hour. But go to either Apple Pie Capital or to FranFund.com and go to register, go to the registration, get in one or the other or both of these lists, where that as this stuff is released, we send it directly to you quickly. And then begin to assemble the documents. And we obviously will have that up on the website here within a few hours as to what those documents can be. Hopefully, as we get this, we will be able to change that as we know. So you're not gathering things you don't need and are working on focusing on gathering the things that you do need. But the quickest, the easiest way to stay current is to stay current with someone like Apple Pie, FranFund, or even through the IFA, although they're really kind of relying more on these vehicles to get the word out there. So when it becomes time to apply, you can, if you have a strong relationship with your bank, and I do mean a strong relationship with your bank, where they say they can do you and get you to the front of the queue, and only you know how strong that relationship is. You may want to leverage that. If you're going through someone like Apple Pie or FranFund, what you're going to find is we've identified and have set up a lot of banks, and we're going to try to make sure that they're all not backed up. In other words, here's someone who has bandwidth to take these, or the next group, or the next group, or the next group, where we can keep them in balance and try to push as many of these through the system as quickly as we can. So, but if you don't have a strong business relationship with your bank, and this is not a throw anyone under the bus type scenario, but a large bank like a Wells Fargo, a Chase, a Bank of America, if you don't have a strong business relationship through that bank, you could get caught in just the overwhelming amount that they will have. The second thing is a lot of these banks are going to be doing their own loans first. So, I mean, it's just the right thing if you are on the bank. So if you've got, if you're Bank of America and you have tens of thousands of loans that are at risk, but that could use more liquidity and more capital, you're going to be pushing through and trying to get those loans through your process first. Some of the other banks that both Ron and I are working with are banks that are working to just set up an expressway to move these through as quickly as possible, because they may not have that size and amount of loans that they have on their books to worry. So there's some finesse here into where you go and what you do. And we will try to continue on the site, give you the best advice possible. And it's not send it to me. It's let's figure out how to get everyone through this, as quickly as possible, and how to get everyone money that they need.
Geoff, the note at the bottom of the screen is that Apple Pie Capital and FranFund are not charging a fee.
There is not a fee charge for this. Very important to know. That's what I'm saying. We there is a possibility, and we don't know yet, that there could be something between the bank and us on these. I can tell you that's not why Ron or FranFund are doing this. It is to simply save our industry, save our folks, take the pain away as best we can. This is that time when we have those skill sets and those things available to us to try to help the industry, and we're going to do our best to help.
Well, thank you guys for that. Is there another slide there, Cheryl, that Geoff needs to speak to? Okay, great.
Q&A. Let's try to keep them on, digging down into an individual situation is hard. You can shoot an email or something afterwards, but
Okay.
let's try to keep them mostly general. I've seen some of them, and I think I can hit some of those. But John, why don't you start?
All right, so I've recorded most of them here. The independent contractor, full-time contractors. What if you've been employing someone for 3 months, 4 months on a full-time basis, but they're not your W-2 employee, they're an independent contractor? How do they get included in this, if at all?
They are not, this is again, my understanding right now. They are not included for you because I'm sure you're using them as a 1099 employee and you don't want to cross those bridges for this loan. However, they are eligible to apply themselves for this based on their entire contracting or entire business.
Okay,
So
great.
I would encourage them to, and their application should be very simple and straightforward. So I would encourage them to do that, go through here, get that money where that they can sustain during this time.
And we are going to post the PowerPoint on the conferences page of Titus Center for Franchising.com. Next question, Geoff, who is SBA approved or approvable? If the franchise brand isn't on the SBA registry, does that mean you're out, or how does this work?
It does. It is one of those situations where we'll have to say they can fall under a normal business. In other words, they don't have to be a franchise to be on here, right? And we did get some of the affiliation rules waived, and that was again another IFA hard push for things like payroll services and some of these things that were deemed as too much franchisor control. Those were waived. So, but if it is, some of the other things that are ineligible on an SBA on the SBA side, like adult entertainment, those aren't waived. So it's going to depend upon the situation to find out why they would be an unapproved brand or why they would not be SBA eligible. And those are going to be kind of technical questions. If there's somebody that has one of those that wants to send me a note, I'll try to get them an answer.
So the distinction here is, even though we think in terms of franchising, this $2 trillion CARES Act applies to all businesses, franchised or not.
Yes, that's correct.
And
For instance, in our situation at FranFund, we will be going down this path.
so suppliers are eligible.
Suppliers are eligible.
A one-person business operation, two-person business operation, eligible?
I'm sorry, John, I lost you.
One or two people, I'm in business for myself. Independent contractor, you quite have alluded to that before.
Yes,
There's no limit to how many people have to be in the business.
that is correct.
Is the owner's draw included in the calculation?
If the owner is paying himself through payroll, yes. If it is being done through dividends or other disbursements, no, because those are part of the business profit. One of the things I don't think we harped on enough through here too is the $100,000 employee. I know it was in.
Yeah, that's one of the questions.
The up to $100,000 in wages is allowable. So if you have an employee that makes $120,000 for the size of your loan and for everything going forward from that, it's a $100,000 employee. Okay, so I mean,
So they're included. It's
They're
just
included,
that you
but
can't
only
go
up to-
higher than 100,000.
right, only up to 100. Now, all my understanding, and again, we'll see this as soon as I get off. Hopefully, there's some guidance there. All of the ancillary costs for that employee are included. So it's not like you don't get full credit for paying their health care, things like that. So, it's really just the wages. They're capping at 100,000.
Okay.
And then they only count the same way through your stuff on the back end. No matter how much you paid them, when you're trying to get to that payroll amount, you're capped at 100,000.
So related to this question, is everything capped at 100,000? For example, if you have $100,000 salary and then you get commissions and benefits and 401k, you're capped at 100,000, or how is that working?
Commissions would be included because they would be taxable and be going into the overall mix for that employee. So you're capped at $100,000 there. They don't really care what the calculation is on how you pay them. So it's just you're paying them more than $100,000 in wages. But over the 100, the healthcare, the 401k benefits, those will be included. So that
they're separate from the 100,000 cap.
actually count $125,000 towards your loan amount.
Okay, so that health benefits, et cetera, 401k are not included in the $100,000 cap. Right, Geoff?
Yes.
Sorry to hit you with all these, but all right. Owner paid themselves a draw, starts to pay themselves through payroll going forward. Would that be forgiven?
Again, it's all going to be based on the wages that you have from back. Remember, our test area is back a year ago, or the last 60 days. You can pick either one. I know this is real, like in the weeds stuff, but what would be forgiven if you've done something outside of payroll, even though you know what it is and your accountant knows what it is and your partner knows what it is, it's going to be the payroll stuff, guys, that drive this as far as an owner's concerned. If the owner's been taking $0 in wages and running $0 through payroll and taking everything through a dividend, they're not going to be an employee here, or they're not booking themselves an employee, or they're not paying taxes as if they were an employee. So otherwise this gets so far down in the weeds. You can imagine how creative accountants could get on this as you went down the line. So if
you've already applied for the EIDL loan, how does that affect the PPP loan?
Well, if you've applied and got that, if you've gotten the $10,000, the kind of quick money, that $10,000 would count against this. It would be incorporated into it. Now, The good part about that is that, so that is the direction we have. If you've applied for the EIDL and you haven't received it, my advice is just apply for the PPP, get this money faster. You don't know what's going to happen with that EIDL as they go on down the line. And those things are going to take quarters, not months, not days, not weeks, but quarters to get through that system as it sits right now.
Okay.
They just don't have the resources.
Someone's asking about the $10,000 grant, but that is the EIDL. Is that
That's
correct?
the EIDL, and you can go through the website, through the SBA website, fill out that paperwork and send it in and kind of see what happens. There's no coaching or anything I can give you on that other than fill out the forms and send it in.
Mm-hmm. And what about a new startup that just invested money to get a franchise moving?
Yeah, I'm getting pulled the same way that Ron did to jump on calls here on what's going on with with what's out.
So basically, Geoff, franchisees can apply through you and Ron. Franchisors can send their franchisees to you guys. You don't charge a fee for this, correct? Is that?
We do not charge a fee.
And so you want franchisors to tell their franchisees, give them that last slide?
Everything that you can through this, because the one thing that's going to happen when they go and register is they're going to start to get information on how to do this, and whether or not that ends up being something that we help you place or you're able to place with with your bank because you have a relationship, and we'll kind of help you make that call if you would like. But we just need to get franchisees and companies through this system as quickly as possible so that we can get cash into the economy and we can keep everybody employed. I mean, the key here is just speed. So.
Geoff, thank you. I know you guys are really in demand. We had 45 minutes of your time, or almost that much. Appreciate it. On behalf of the Titus Center, Palm Beach Atlantic University, God bless you for all this. And we look forward to
Sorry both of us had to jump, but it's actually
All
good
right.
news. If we're moving that fast, this is an incredible thing.
For those of you still with us, we are going to post at TitusCenterForFranchising.com. We'll get the video up there. We'll have the slides up there. Please contact us at TitusCenterForFranchising.com. Thank you all.
Let's see from Matt. I just got Matt's stuff. Yeah, what do you need? Yeah, I'm muted. What?
Okay, well, we need to